is because we need a fighter, someone who will fight for Florida agriculture. When I think about the greatest threats facing Florida agriculture, we know about the weather, we know about diseases, we know about pests, we know how deadly they are. But to me, the single greatest threat to the future of agriculture here in the state of Florida, the threat that's going on every day, is government. And it's occurring at the local levels, the state level, and the federal level. Locally, as it's been mentioned by Trudy Williams on her video, the locals, whether it's through zoning, whether it's through code enforcement, local ordinances, are making every day more and more difficult, particularly for small farmers to earn a living. On the state level, we've added a layer of regulation that makes it virtually impossible for a small farmer, rancher to sell their produce, to sell their product to a consumer. Whether it's directly, whether it's at a farmer's market, we've made it so costly that that's not occurring, and it's adversely affecting our small farmers in the state. On the federal level, we are now about to, I believe, pass a bill out of Congress, the Federal Food Safety Act, that I think eventually has a potential of destroying agriculture in this country. I know for a fact that it will damage small farmers and small ranchers in this country. They are setting up a 5,000-man police state of these food enforcement officers that will go forth in this country, regulating to the most minute detail the ranchers and farmers in this state. And I think ultimately the federal regulation will have such a detrimental effect that it could jeopardize agriculture in the state of Florida, continue the move to other countries like Mexico and Chile and Argentina. And if we don't stop that effort, and if we don't have a Commissioner of Agriculture that's willing to fight these issues, willing to fight at the local level, state level, and federal level, to say no to the continual growth of government, which I think is the single most important factor to the future of farming and ranching in this state. Now, I have a proven record. My daddy used to say it's not a man's words that matter, but his actions. And so I have a proven record in the Florida legislature. I fought for the green belt exemption. I fought for lowering the taxes on electricity and farm equipment. I filed bills that allow you to move extra wide over-width vehicles down the roads. I fought for bills and filed bills that allow for overweight vehicles allowances for moving agricultural products. Representative Evers and I did that. So I have a history of property rights. If you believe in property rights, in the Florida Senate for the past 4 years, I've carried every property right bill that matters to agriculture. And there's a lot of enemies out there. There's a lot of fights that I have to fight, and I have fought, and I'll continue to fight, because that's how important agriculture is to me and how important it is to this state. This year, continuing that tradition of fighting for what's important for you, and particularly what's important for small farmers, I filed the Florida Food Freedom Act. And we're going to deregulate. We're going to deregulate the food permitting that goes on in the state of Florida. And what that food permit does, it is such heavy regulation that if you want to sell your produce to your neighbor, you have to invest $30,000, $40,000 or more just to sell food directly to your neighbor or at the farmer's market. Now, I believe in personal responsibility. I also believe that if you put your produce into a food distribution center that goes out to restaurants, grocery stores, well, we need a strong layer of protection. But when it comes to you selling to your neighbor, that's a matter of personal responsibility. That's a matter between you and your neighbor. And if we want a strong agriculture, we need to allow entrepreneurship to occur. And that comes by allowing people to do what they do best, and that's farm and ranch. Now, I own a gun shop. My brothers and I own the A.W. Peterson Gun Shop, the oldest gun shop in the nation, available for all your hunting and shooting needs, I might add. And let me tell you, I know a little something about government regulation. I know the government wants to over-regulate me. I know that the government, if allowed to, would put me out of business. Now, thank the Lord, the Founding Fathers had the foresight to put into our Constitution a Bill of Rights. And it's that Second Amendment that protects my business. You know, if I were to do what I do anywhere else in the world, I'd be arrested. But only in America can I be a firearm salesman. And only in America do we have the right to keep and bear arms. And it's because we're protected by the Bill of Rights. And so every day I understand what freedom means, and I understand how freedom, just like the Second Amendment protects my business, the freedom to farm is so important. If we want to continue agriculture as a tradition, as an industry in this state, we have to value freedom above all. 28 and a half years ago, I raised my right hand, joined the Florida Army National Guard. I'm still serving today. I tell people after 28 and a half years, if I keep fooling around, I might make a career of it. I'm going to try to reach 30 years. And I spent a year in Iraq, and I saw firsthand the effect of a large government dictatorship and how it takes away freedom, how it ruins the lives of its citizens economically. And I understand that because I've been there. And I understand how people yearning to be free, what they feel. And increasingly, I hear Americans echoing those same comments about freedom, right here in America. And that's because the federal government, and the state government for that matter, keeps expanding its roles. And the more government expands, the smaller we'll become in this state. I'd just like to close by saying that I was the agriculture budget chairman in the House. I'm our agriculture budget chairman in the Senate. We call it General Government Appropriations. And I've had the chance to work with Charlie Bronson for many years, setting the priorities of his budget in the Department of Agriculture, funding the important agriculture issues of this state. And it's been a privilege to serve. We're going to miss him, but unfortunately term limits have causing Mr. Bronson to retire. I've worked closely with agriculture industries and associations in the state. I've been named Center of the Year. Matter of fact, thank you. Last year, Florida Farm Bureau named me Center of the Year. I've been named Center of the Year by the Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association, the Landscape and the Nursery and Landscape Association, the Florida Cattlemen's Association, the Florida Forestry Association. And what that represents, that doesn't mean that I'm an expert in all those issues. And it's not important that there's a plaque on the wall. What's important is I've shown a commitment to Florida agriculture, to listen, to be a strong advocate, to work tirelessly in the Florida Senate and the Florida House for the issues that are important to agriculture. I'm endorsed by nearly half of my Senate colleagues, over 20 of my House colleagues. Just recently, the Department of Agriculture, their firefighters endorsed me in this race. The Fraternal Order of Police have endorsed me. So many of my Farm Bureau colleagues across the state have endorsed me in this race. At the end of the day, I think the Commissioner of Agriculture not only has to be an advocate for agriculture, but they have to be a fighter. Someone who's willing to stand up to the government at all levels and fight for what's important in this state. And with me, you get someone with a proven record. Now, unfortunately, in politics, if you can give a good speech, that is very politically powerful. But it should be about actions and not words. Matter of fact, if you can give a good speech, if you can read a teleprompter, you can be President of the United States. You can win the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, but maybe it ought to be more than fancy talk. Maybe we ought to look at those that are running for office, those that have served, and look at their record, look at how they voted, look at the bills they filed, look at who they are as a person. That will tell you who the best person is. I think I have the commitment, the expertise, and the passion to serve you well as your next Commissioner of Agriculture. I would love to have your support. You can go to careybaker.com to learn more about me. And I just want to thank you again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. God bless you.